Welcome back to the Anti-Cancer Lab. If you're new here, pull up a chair, you're in good company. This is where I read the cancer studies most people never see and tell you, plainly, what they mean for your plate. No fear, no hype. So grab a coffee and let's look at this one together. Because today's is the single most repeated claim in the whole cancer and food world, and most of what you've heard about it is half right. Here's the claim, word for word. The way it gets said to frighten people every single day. Cut out all sugar, or you'll feed your tumor. Sugar is cancer's fuel. Starve the sugar, starve the cancer. You've heard it. Maybe someone said it to you at the worst possible moment, right after a diagnosis, when you were already scared and looking for something, anything you could control. And I want to give you the honest answer today. Not the scary version, not the comforting version, the real one. Because there is a true part buried in this, and there is a part that is flat out wrong, and telling them apart is going to change what you do at the supermarket this week. Quick note before we go further. I'm Dr. Becker. I'm a researcher, not your doctor, and I've never had cancer or treated a single patient. Everything here is me translating published studies for general education. None of it is medical advice, and none of it replaces your oncologist or your treatment. If you are in treatment right now, please, do not change one thing about how you eat based on a video. Bring what's useful here to the people actually caring for you and let them decide, alongside them, never instead of them. All right, let me start with a confession, because I owe you that before any science. For years I had this one backwards. I genuinely believed the simple version. Cut the sugar, starve the tumor, clean and satisfying and wrong. And I repeated it, which is worse. Let me back up. It took me actually sitting down with the imaging studies, the metabolism papers, to realize I'd been handing people a half-truth that made them feel guilty about a slice of birthday cake while missing the thing that actually mattered. So let me make this right today. We start with the part that is true, because it's real and it's fascinating, and it's where the whole myth comes from. And I want you to understand it well, because once you see where the true part ends, you'll never be fooled by the false part again. That's the gift here. Not fear. Clarity. Back in the 1920s, a German scientist named Otto Warburg noticed something strange about cancer cells. Normal cells, when they have oxygen around, burn fuel one efficient way. But many cancer cells, they burn glucose, which is just the simple sugar your body runs on. They burn it fast and sloppy, even when there's plenty of oxygen around to do it the efficient way. They gulp sugar. This is called the Warburg effect, after him. And it's real. It's been confirmed for 100 years. Cancer cells, a lot of them, are hungry for glucose. Now let me put that in a picture you can hold, because the mechanism matters. Think of a normal cell as a careful cook who takes one potato and gets a full, slow meal out of it. Every bit of energy squeezed out. A lot of cancer cells aren't cooking a careful meal. They're a fast food kitchen at the lunch rush, tearing through sugar as fast as it comes in the door, because they're not really after the energy. They're after the raw building blocks to make more of themselves. Fast. Copies, copies, copies. So they grab sugar at a rate that would make a normal cell dizzy. That's the Warburg effect in a sentence. Hungry, fast, sloppy, always building. And here's the part that makes people's eyes go wide, because it sounds like proof. When your doctor orders a PET scan, that's the imaging test that lights up where cancer is in the body. Do you know how it works? They inject you with a tiny bit of radioactive sugar. A glucose tracer, they call it FDG, a sugar molecule with a little tag on it, and then they watch where it lights up. The tumors light up bright, brighter than the tissue around them, because the tumors grab that tagged sugar faster than everything else. Let that land for a second. We literally use the tumor's sugar appetite to find it on a screen. It is one of the most useful tools in cancer imaging, and it works precisely because Warburg was right. So when someone says cancer eats sugar, they're not making it up. In a hospital, in the dark of the scanning room, you can watch it happen in real time. I'll tell you what I'd actually say. If my own brother asked me about this over the kitchen table, I'd say, that part's true. The tumor is a sugar hog. We can see it. And then I'd say, but hold on, because here's where the logic jumps the tracks. Because here is the leap that everybody makes, and it's the wrong one. People hear the tumor eats sugar, and they conclude, so if I eat sugar, I'm feeding my tumor. And if I stop eating sugar, I'll starve it. And that, let me be careful here, that does not follow. It sounds like common sense. It's just not how your body works. Let me show you why, in plain terms. Your body keeps the sugar level in your blood inside a tight range on purpose around the clock, whether you eat a candy bar or eat nothing at all. Think of it like the thermostat in your house. You don't decide the temperature minute by minute. The thermostat holds it, and if it drops, the furnace kicks on automatically. Your blood sugar has a thermostat just like that, and your liver is the furnace. Your liver makes glucose. It makes it out of protein, out of fat. It will make it out of your own muscle if it has to. That's not a bug, it's survival, and it's been keeping your ancestors alive through every famine for 200,000 years. Your brain, meanwhile, runs almost entirely on glucose, and your brain does not negotiate. It demands its fuel, and it gets it. So the idea that you can quietly cut off a tumor's sugar supply by skipping dessert, your body simply will not let your blood sugar drop that far. The thermostat won't allow it. The furnace fires up, and it makes more. The tumor keeps getting fed either way, from the inside, by you, no matter what's sitting on your fork. That's the honest biology, and I wish more people knew it, because it would spare a lot of frightened folks, a lot of pointless suffering over a piece of fruit. I know exactly what some of you are thinking right now. You're thinking, but I've read about people doing very strict diets, ketogenic diets, and their cancer got better. Fair. That's an honest question, and it deserves an honest answer, not a brush-off. So here it is. In a dish, and in some mouse studies, certain low-sugar or ketogenic approaches do show interesting effects on certain cancer cells. And there are serious researchers, I read their papers, studying whether a strict diet, used alongside real treatment, might make some therapies work a little better in some specific cancers. That's genuine science, and it is ongoing, and I'm glad they're doing it. I want to be fair to it. But, and this is the honest catch, and it's a big one, there is no solid human trial showing that a zero-sugar or ketogenic diet on its own cures cancer or shrinks a tumor away. None. Promising in a petri dish, or even in a mouse, is a very long way from proven in a living person, and the history of cancer research is a graveyard of things that look spectacular in a dish and did nothing in people. So I would not bet a treatment on it. No honest researcher would tell you to, and anyone who does is getting ahead of the evidence in a way that could hurt you. A strict diet is a maybe helper being studied. It is not a replacement for anything, ever, and if you're in treatment, the person who decides what you eat is your oncologist, not a video and not a website. So let me sit with a story for a second, because this stopped being abstract for me a while back. There's a woman I'll call Nadine who wrote to me last winter after her diagnosis. Sharp, careful lady, kept a notebook, and she told me she had stopped eating fruit. All of it. No apple, no blueberries, no orange, because a website told her fruit sugar feeds cancer, and she was terrified she was killing herself with a banana. She'd lost weight she couldn't afford to lose. She was miserable, and worse, she felt guilty on top of being sick, and I thought, this is the damage, not the sugar. The fear about the sugar. The whole food fruit, with its fiber and its vitamins and the compounds we actually have evidence for, that was never her enemy. The website was. Let me be straight with you, because this is the honesty turn and it's the whole point of the video. The sugar feeds cancer story is not entirely false, and it's not entirely true, and both of those matter. It's false that eating a cookie targets your tumor, or that cutting sugar starves it, but there is a real link between sugar and cancer. It just runs through a different door than everybody thinks. And that door is the one worth walking through. Here's the real link, the one your oncologist actually cares about. It's not that sugar molecules feed a tumor directly. It's what a lifetime of too much added sugar does to your whole body over the years. Follow me, because this is the chain, link by link. Too much added sugar, the sodas, the sweets, the constant refined stuff that pushes weight up. Carrying too much body fat, especially over decades, raises your levels of two things. First, insulin. That's the hormone that unlocks your cells to let sugar in. And when you eat a lot of refined sugar for years, your body has to pump out more and more of it, and the levels stay high. Second, something called IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1, and the name tells you what it does. It's a growth signal, a message that tells cells, build, divide, grow. And here's the piece that ties it to cancer. Those two, insulin and that growth factor, they don't just manage sugar. They push it down on the accelerator, telling cells to grow, to divide, and crucially, not to die on schedule the way a healthy cell is supposed to. Now, a cancer cell is, at its core, a cell that grows when it shouldn't and won't die when it should. So you can see the problem. Keeping that growth accelerator pressed down, year after year, is exactly the environment you don't want. It doesn't create cancer out of nothing, but it's a friendlier climate for it than you'd like. Let me say that more carefully because I don't want to overstate it. It tilts the odds, over a long time, in the wrong direction. That's the honest weight of it. And this isn't fringe, and it isn't me. In 2016, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, that's the cancer arm of the World Health Organization, a very sober, very cautious group of scientists whose whole job is to not overstate things. They gathered a working group, reviewed a mountain of studies, and concluded that carrying excess body fat raises the risk of at least 13 different cancers. 13. Let me name a few so it's real to you. Breast cancer after menopause, colon and rectum, kidney, pancreas, liver, the lining of the uterus, and more beyond those. That's not a health blogger. That's the World Health Organization putting its name on it. Now I have to be honest with you about what kind of evidence that is, because you deserve to know how strong the ground is under your feet. These are what we call associations. They come mostly from observational studies, which means researchers followed very large groups of people for many years and watched what happened. That kind of study shows you a strong, consistent link. What it can do, all by itself, is prove that the fat alone caused each and every one of those cancers, because life is complicated and lots of things travel together. So I won't tell you it's proven cause and effect. What I'll tell you is this. The link is strong, it shows up again and again across many countries and millions of people, and we have a believable mechanism for why. That insulin and growth factor accelerator we just walked through. When you've got a large, consistent association and a mechanism that explains it, that's about as solid as nutrition evidence ever gets. I'd act on it. In fact, I do. So do you see the flip? The problem was never the sugar molecule sneaking over to your tumor. The problem is the long, slow effect of too much added sugar. The weight, the insulin, the growth signals. Running in the background for 20, 30 years. That's the real story. And it's actually better news, because it means you're not playing a knife's edge game where one dessert dooms you. You're playing a long game where your overall pattern is what counts. And a long game, that's a game a person your age can absolutely win. All right, let me put this on the plate, because I promised you I always would, and this is where it gets practical. Here's the honest, doable version. You are not trying to hit zero sugar. Please don't. It's miserable, it's unnecessary, and it'll scare you off foods that are good for you. What you're actually doing is turning down the added and free sugars, the ones that spike you and put on weight over the years. In plain terms, at the supermarket, that means easing off the sugar-sweetened drinks first. The soda, the sweet tea, the fancy coffee drinks. If you do one thing, do that one, because liquid sugar is the easiest place to overshoot without even noticing. After that, the obvious sweets, and yes, the white bread and the refined stuff. And I'll leave the whole bread conversation for another day. That's a big topic on its own. One line here. Less of the refined, more of the whole. Now here's the part people get exactly wrong. So listen close, because this is where the fear does real harm. You do not need to fear the natural sugar in whole fruit and vegetables. You don't. An apple, a handful of berries, a carrot, a bowl of squash. Yes, there's natural sugar in there, but it comes wrapped. Wrapped in fiber that slows it down, wrapped in water that fills you up, wrapped in vitamins, and wrapped in the very plant compounds that the actual anti-cancer research points to. That wrapping changes everything. When you eat a whole apple, the sugar arrives slowly, gently, with the brakes on. When you drink a can of soda, the same amount of sugar arrives all at once, naked, flooring that insulin accelerator we just talked about. Your body treats those two like completely different events, because they are. So keep the fruit, keep the vegetables, eat the carrot without a second thought. Nadine, the woman I told you about, who'd cut out every apple and every blueberry out of pure fear. The very first thing I'd want for her is to put the blueberries back in the bowl without 1 ounce of guilt, and to hear from somebody who read the studies that she was never poisoning herself with fruit. She was starving herself of the good stuff to avoid a danger that was never there. The realistic swaps are almost embarrassingly simple, and I'll walk you right through them, one at a time, the way I'd do it if we were standing in your kitchen. Swap the daily soda for sparkling water with a squeeze of real lemon or lime. Do it a couple of weeks, and then it's just habit. And here's the strange part. Sensory-wise, you actually flip. You start to love the sharp cold fizz, and the old sweet stuff, when you taste it again, tastes like drinking syrup. Your palate resets. It really does. Next, the coffee. If you take a sugary flavored coffee drink every morning, that's often more sugar than a dessert hiding in a cup. Walk it back, a little less sweetener each week, or a smaller size, until you can taste the coffee again. And here's a small cheap trick I like, a shake of cinnamon in the cup. It reads as sweet to your brain without a grain of sugar, and it smells wonderful. Then dessert. You don't ban it, you don't have to, and you shouldn't. You just move it from every single night to a couple of nights, and on the other nights you go fruit forward. A baked apple with cinnamon, 20 minutes in the oven, and your whole kitchen smells like fall. A bowl of frozen berries thawed with a spoon of plain yogurt. Cheap, whole, satisfying. None of this costs a penny more. Half of it costs less than what you're doing now. And there's a man I think about, I'll call him Marcus, retired fellow, who told me he kept his bread, kept his fruit, kept a dessert most nights. Just those 2 sodas, gone. And over a year, that one small change did more for his weight and his energy than every crash diet he'd ever punished himself with. And I asked him why, and he said the simplest thing, because it was the only one I actually stuck with. That's the whole secret right there. And let me say the cold, honest thing plainly, so nobody walks away with the wrong idea. None of this is a cure. Cutting your soda does not kill cancer, and a blueberry does not fight a tumor the way a headline promises. What this does is turn down the growth signals, over years, a little at a time. It shifts the odds. Anyone who tells you a diet alone starves cancer away is selling you something, or scaring you, and often both. This is being the safe driver over a long trip. It is not a guarantee, and it is never ever a substitute for the treatment your medical team gives you. So here's your one thing this week, and it's free. Pick your single biggest source of liquid sugar, the soda, the sweet tea, the syrup coffee, and swap it, just that one, for water or sparkling water with real citrus. Don't touch anything else. Don't cut your fruit. Don't punish yourself. One drink. That's the whole assignment. Because the change you actually keep beats the perfect diet you quit by Thursday. You hold one lever every single day, 3 times a day, and it's your plate. Not a knife's edge, not a doomsday sugar switch, a long, patient pattern that you get to shape. That's not nothing. That's real. Turn down the added sugar, keep the whole foods and the fruit, watch the weight and the insulin over the years, and bring all of it to your oncologist. You do the plate. Let your team do the rest. That's the whole game, and it's a game you can win. Keep it simple, keep it on your plate, and I'll see you right back here. Bring a friend who needs this. And tell me in the comments, what's the one sugary drink you're going to swap out this week? I read every one of these.